Hi, I'm Amy Shannon, and this is Amy's Band Book Buzz. And this week, I'm talking about my favorite. He is my favorite poet. He's my favorite classic author, Walt Whitman. And I'm talking about his book, Leaves of Grass. Um, Whitman, many, when he wrote, and his Leaves of Grass, one of the editions was published in 1855. So that kind of gives you a picture of what the world was like back then. Walt Whitman enjoyed the company of young men, not children, middle age, but he liked having companions. Um, some judged his work because of his lifestyle. He didn't hide it, he didn't hide who he was. He wrote what he wanted to write. And that happens a lot of times that many people just judge books based off of the author who wrote them. So, one of the things that I remember watching a show a while ago, and there was a character on it, and it was supposed to be Walt Whitman. It was taken, it was one of those old fashioned shows, and the the story behind it was that he was coming and he was going to do a reading, and they the characters they some of them loved his work and others just they didn't want his work in his library. They didn't want him there. They thought he back then it was called a perversion, um, and they thought that it was also a medical condition. But many of his works, people didn't want to read them. And then on the other hand, when books are banned, there are people like me, like, oh my God, why wouldn't you want to read this book? Or because it's, you know, all over the news, or back then it would have been, word of mouth or printing in newspapers, people getting libraries, burning books because they don't agree with the topic, um, things like that. So it can make people not want to read them, or it can make people really intrigued and really want to read them. When you're bringing, it's like the celebrities say, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Publicity is publicity, and in some cases, banned books can be that way. It can increase sales, or it can be really detrimental to the author. Um, anyone, if if you've never read Whitman before, I recommend it, and that's because he's my favorite. But I'm the kind of person that I love reading classical work. I love reading contemporary, and basically, I'll read anything mainly. I mean, Whitman and Shakespeare and Poe, they all different varieties of writing and how they tell their story. And the only way we can know what their story is if we read it. Um, and we don't have to agree with people in order to read something. I could read a book and be objective and not necessarily agree with the context. I've read books on religion. I've read books on politics, um, so-called self-healing, things like that. And there may have been books that I did not agree with. So I looked at them in a different way, from a different perspective, and found the story within it, because it doesn't matter if it's fiction or nonfiction, true story. There is a story in everything that's written. There's a story in everyone's lives. It doesn't matter if you live or when you die. Every life and every death has a story. And I hope one day someone will read my stories and think about what I was writing or what I was thinking when I wrote them. But back to Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. And one of my favorite passages is called Song of Myself. I celebrate myself, and what I assume you shall assume. For every atom belonging to me as good belongs to you. I loaf and invite my soul. I lean and loaf at my ease, observing a spear of summer grass. Houses and roof perfumes. The shelves are crowded with perfumes. I breathe the fragrance myself and know it and like it. The distillation would intoxicate me also, but I shall not let it. The atmosphere is not a perfume. It has no taste of the distillation. It is odorless. It is for my mouth forever. I am in love with it. I will go to the bank by the wood and become undisguised and naked. I am mad for it to be in contact with me. The smoke of my own breath, echoes, ripples, buzzed whispers, lover root, silk thread, crotch and wine and vine. My respiration and inspiration, the beating of my heart, the passing of blood and air through my lungs, the sniff of green grass and dry leaves, of the shore and dark colored sea rocks, and of hay in the barn, the sound of belched words of my voice, words loosened to the eddies of the wind, a few light kisses, a few embraces, a reaching around of arms, the play of shine and shade on the trees as the supple boughs wag, the delight alone, or the rush in the streets, or along the fields and hillsides. The feeling of health, the full noon trill, the song of me rising from bed and meeting the sun. And that's just the beginning of Walt Whitman. And he is one of those interesting and controversial poets and artists, writers, because writing is an art. So, if you haven't read Whitman, I recommend that you do. And if you have, and it's been a while, I recommend you read it again. Thank you. This has been Amy from Amy's Fan Book Buzz, and I'll see you next week. Be well.